Welcome to Revit training. We're going to give people a few minutes here to join, and then we'll get started. So probably won't wait too long, but we'll get started here. If you do have any questions, feel free to put them here in the chat, and I'll answer them as we go. There's going to be some breaks, but try to get through this fairly promptly. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and throw them in the chat, and we'll get started here. So first off, I'm Dylan. I'm going to share my screen here, and what we'll go through here is, so today, obviously, we're doing some Revit training for Revit. So first, I'm going to populate our Revit model really quickly. So this is Surfboard, some software that we're working on. I'm going to populate all of our lighting throughout this model just so that we have something to work with. It'll take just a few minutes for this all to populate. Basically, I'm just adding some standard devices throughout the model, lights, receptacles, and switches, and just going to populate everything while we go through the model, or go through the training and overview. So again, this is electrical training for Revit. I'm Dylan. I'm a licensed electrical engineer in 5 states, primarily throughout the Midwest. I've worked on small projects, office renovations, even probably some bathroom renovations over the years, up to $70 million new high school campuses, including ball fields, outbuildings, all that good stuff. I've worked in healthcare, operating rooms, patient rooms, central plants, office spaces, K through 12, elementary, middle, high schools, higher education, primarily on dormitories and dining halls, industrial buildings, as well as some multifamily type buildings as well. And all of this has been in Revit. So it's not just, putting these buildings together, it's doing it in Revit, doing it at scale. So when you're dealing with, 100,000, 200, 300,000 square foot buildings that are dense, like a high school, you have a lot of devices, a lot of panels, schedules that need to be put together. And so you got to think a little differently on those scale of things versus like a small little office where you can kind of jerry rig some stuff to make it work and look good for your construction documents. I'm also an avid hiker, as you can see by that waterfall, and do a lot of outdoor running and that kind of stuff. So I've been in Revit for years, and today I wanted to go over 5 useful tricks that every electrical engineer should know about Revit. This has to do with load classifications, understanding type versus instance properties, how to use the tab key for some selections, adding switch legs, and using the system browser. So for load classifications, what this is really going through is to make sure that your panel schedule is right, and so that your connected load is actually different than your demand load, and you have the right demand factors basically inputted through your properties. Typically, this is receptacles. This is where you can have major deviations in load, as we all know, but to make sure that Revit's calculating that for you. Type versus instance properties. Why this is important is because of primarily using the ability to select all, or in that, so selecting all, you need to be able to make changes to devices, whether that's changing loads, changing types, other properties. One instance, you're able to select everything, the other, you're not. So we'll go through that. Using the tab key. The tab key is actually very, very useful, whether it's selecting between links, selecting switch legs, circuits. There's a lot of stuff that the tab key is very useful for. Adding switch legs, primarily for lighting. So your switch groups, especially now that we have a lot of different zones, with daylight zones or dimming zones, that you can easily annotate, your A, B, and C switches, as well as which lights those go to. And then finally, the system browser. So this becomes really crucial when you're looking at your panel schedules and you're looking at like circuit 24 and have no idea where circuit 24 is, and it's just named like receptacle with no other indication on it. The system browser becomes very useful for you to kind of look through and see where things are. So now we'll go to Revit. Surfboard did its thing and populated everything. So we've got receptacles, lights, and switches now. So the first thing we want to go through is those load classifications. So by selecting a receptacle, what we'll look at is, so we'll go into the type property, and within your type properties, you'll have this load classification. So in this case, we're looking at a receptacle, and you should have, and if not, you can load them in from other projects or create them yourself, but all these load classification types. So for us, we're looking at a receptacle, and now, so these are all the load classification types. So what you see here on the left is what will be populated within your panel schedules. So that'll be at the bottom of your panel schedule, and it will say receptacle, lighting, you know, whatever it might be. So now we want to look and make sure that the demand factor is correct. So with that, you know, for a general receptacle from 0 to 10 kVA, right, we have 100% demand factor. From 10 kVA and above, we're only going to take 50% of that demand factor. I've seen panels vary drastically because of this incremental piece, and it just taking everything. So your connected load ends up being high as well as your demand load. So very important to get this right, especially in sizing services, as we all know, especially the bigger the project, this can have a real impact. Same with lighting. So we go through some of these other ones. Again, this is all from the NEC. So you look at like lighting in a hotel, lighting in a hospital. All these are demand factors that are from the NEC. So you go through all these for farm loads, if you're using those, electric ranges, your quantities and demand factors for that. So if you're doing like a big kitchen or like in a high school, you've got home ec rooms and you have, you know, 10 ranges. So this is very, very important to make sure that you're getting that correct. Once you have all these set up, then it's applying it just to the right type. You know, if you've got different motors and you need to apply a demand factor, or for HVAC loads, you want to apply something that's not this, you can go in and change it. So demand factors and load classifications are very, very important to make sure that you get correct throughout a project. So that's how you'll change them, edit them, is going in through the type properties and setting them up this way. The other way to get to them is to go to manage, electrical settings, and then you'll come down here to load calculations, and then you can get to load classifications as well as demand factors this way. So go to manage, electrical settings, load calculations, and you can do it through here. There's also a bunch of other settings in here. We're not going to go through those today, but those settings you'll be able to look at as well. Type versus instance properties. So let's just say that these receptacles here, in the other model, these receptacles here are a different type, right? Let's just call them GFCIs. So what we'll do, all the other receptacles are just standard receptacles that are throughout the model. So I'll be able to now select all of the other types, and you can see that GFCI receptacles are not selected because of type parameters, right? So you can select all of a given type, whether that's lights, receptacles, switches, it really doesn't matter. You can select all of a given type, but you cannot select like a given instance. So within your Revit families, if you have to where like you have toggle boxes for like GFCI or other types of receptacles, then you're not going to be able to select all those instances, so if for some reason you had a load change or you had different types where like we can just create one. So we'll duplicate this and we'll call it like water cooler, water fountain. So you have that as a new type. You have now your load for that water cooler, let's say it's 500 VA. And so for this particular instance, right, let's say that your plumbing team chose a given water cooler and it was 500 VA, and then throughout design, or you got a different manufacturer or whatever the case might be, you can now select all of those types for the water cooler, or just come in here and edit type and then change this load, and it'll change it across everything. So with Revit, it's very, very important to think of the long game, not what's maybe convenient in the moment, but think of like the entire life cycle of a project. We all know that things change, things evolve, they vary. So it's really important to understand in the long term how that might affect you. So by making these different types, so yes, like you come in here and you might have 10, 12 different types, you know, for a microwave, for a refrigerator, for all those different loads. But then if, you know, an architect picks a different type of microwave or refrigerator, and I know we all have our standard loads that we put in, maybe it's like 800 VA for a refrigerator, 1500 VA for a microwave, or whatever the case might be. But think of like ranges. If you have a certain like amount for a range and they go from 5 kW ranges to 3.5 kW ranges, well, now that's a significant load change, and you had 20 of them in your project. Instead of going through and changing all 20, you can now change it once. So a little bit of setup time, and really that's a big takeaway, is a little bit of setup time can save you a lot of time on the back end, especially when we don't have any, when we're trying to get projects out and, you know, edit loads, all that kind of good stuff. So that's really the biggest takeaway for type versus instance properties, is to make sure that you really have that all dialed in so that you can, you know, later select the right pieces to make changes. So the tab key, what we're going to do real quick is I'm just going to create this circuit here and power all of these, and I'm going to select just RP2. So in that, all right, so all of these receptacles are now on one circuit. By pressing the tab key, you can see now how the circuit is highlighted. If I click once, so tab, then left click, I can see the circuit. And if I wanted to add wire ticks, I'm able to do that now. So by clicking on the wire ticks, and then if I needed to remove them, see everything in that circuit is now highlighted. The wire, the receptacles, everything, I can filter that back out. So if I just wanted to select the wire, and let's say I didn't need it, now I can delete that out. Also, the tab key for switch legs, that's very important too. But there's a lot of things that that can come through when hitting the tab key. So if you putting in wires, doing switch legs, all that kind of good stuff is really where the tab key can come in, as well as, so if we wanted to like select through here where now I'm on a room, tabbing through to a wall, tabbing through to a space. So if you have other pieces that are like stacked on each other, so let's go back and we'll delete these wires real quick. Let's say that I had this receptacle and it's stacked, and like now I can't really select that receptacle, but I hit the tab key and now I'm able to select the receptacle since the switch was, quote, in the way. So the tab key is really important just to vary your selections, to get to different pieces, and especially if you're putting you know, wires or want to see where that circuit is, now you'll be able to do that and do it, you know, pretty quickly and easily. So if there's, you know, something that you want to show the wire configuration for, it's easier to do with the tab key than some other ways. So tab keys important and probably a little overlooked piece within Revit. The next piece is in adding switch legs. So we'll go to our ceiling plan. Apparently our view range is a little high, so we'll drop our cut plane to 4 feet. And let's see my switches. So we'll just try. All right, so we'll add a couple switches here. And we want to create, let's say we'll just create a switch group for each light. So I'm just copying these switches and we'll create a switch group for each light fixture here. So we'll set these in here. So let's say that each row is going to be a different switch, just for an example. So we'll click on our light fixtures. So we'll select our light fixtures. We'll pick our switch. So select switch. It's very similar to how you circuit things. It's just now in a switch group. So with each switch, we'll want to annotate. So switch ID, we'll just call this A. This will be B. So we'll go through here and annotate these. Switch ID B. This will be C. And this is D. So, and this is in Revit 2019, just for reference on which version of Revit I'm using. So hopefully that helps you. See me a little bit better now. Not that I'm important, but we'll see the screen. So with each of these, so we'll go through and we'll select our light fixtures that we want to be part of the switch group. Select our switch. So this will be B. We'll come through here. Click our switch. Select our switch. It'll be C. And then these will be D. So those are in. And then if we, so I need to load some tags. I'm just using a blank model, so that's why some of these will need to be loaded. And these are just the basic fixture tags. So we'll look at light fixture tag, light switch tag. Add all these in. Yes. Let me just insert another whole family. Light switch tag. So we'll go ahead and open that. So these are probably, and well, I guess we'll give a bonus here because it looks like I'll need to edit some tags. So if you double click on a given tag, you'll be able to go in and edit it. The label is typically what you want to edit. So this is just showing circuit number. And then we'll also want the switch ID. So we can add that to the end here. And you'll see the switch ID come through. We'll expand this out. So this other box is in here if we wanted it. So we'll go ahead and I'm not going to save it. It's okay, load and close. Save anything, overwrite, and parameter values. So since I don't have a circuit on here, which we can go ahead and we'll just circuit everything. So we'll go ahead and select all the lights, filter out columns, those pieces. Oops. So filter the wrong pieces. We'll go ahead and these lights, and we're going to power them from DP1, so circuit 2, A, and then we'll look at all these. So we're going to go ahead and create similar tags, and we'll just go through and tag these lights real quick. Again, this is where the tab key comes in useful to get through these pieces. So also in the tab key, if I tab through here, you can see the switch leg and that they're all going to that switch. So for these instances, let's say that we're going to, it'll let me, we're going to select our switch tags here. Select these guys, pull those in, as well as our other pieces. So we've got each of our tags. Now let's say that we want all of these, we, for whatever reason, need to get rid of one switch. So we're going to get rid of switch D, and these front two rows, or these two rows A and B, will be all A now. So if we want to go and edit our switch system, we can go in here, edit switch system, and then I select all of these. It's going to give you basically a warning saying that do you want to do this, and that they'll be transferred. So yes, we'll, that, and you can see all the tags got changed, and let's say that that these need to now be on switch B. So we'll go to our switch system, select switch. We're going to be on B now. And then these three will be on C. So go ahead and switch C, and then we're going to delete this one, switch D. So you can see pretty easy, straightforward to put together these switch systems. Not always do you need them, but when you do, you can see how easy it is to add, delete, change, remove pieces from that switch system. So that's adding switch legs. And then the last piece is the system browser. So we've got a few pieces that are on our panels. Go back to our floor plan here. So you can see we've got a few panels in here. And with that, we want to just kind of, I'm going to just show you basically how to look at the system browser and how to find things. So first you'll go up to the View tab. You'll go to User Interface, System Browser, and then this beauty will pop up. So not always will this be expanded, but you can go in here and say, I want to look at electrical, and this is only going to do with things that are powered. So, and it'll basically give you a one line effectively. So this RP1, we click on it and say, since it's not powered, but we want to feed it from RP2, it'll now add it, into the distribution system. So you can see that from DP1, it feeds to transformer, which then feeds to receptacle panel 2. And you can see that we've got some receptacles on it, as well as now RP1. So as well on DP1 circuit 2, we've got all these light fixtures. So you can see that this can be pretty useful in finding loads. Now the load that we talked about, let's say you can't find whatever load this is, it'll, if you right click on that load and then click show, it'll take you to different views to show it. So once you find it, then you can be like, okay, now I know where that is. Now I know what to name that switch leg, and you can come up here, electrical circuits, and instead of receptacle space 18, you can find the name of this. So you're looking at women first floor, right? So click on the receptacle, come up here to electrical circuits, go to your load name, and this is women admins first floor. You can add that in. So pretty simple to add. Now you won't see in the system browser really where that is, but you'll see all this other information. So space name, number, load, voltage, all that good stuff is right here for you. And if we open up a panel schedule, so RP2, I believe, so RP2 has some pieces on it. So we'll just create a panel schedule really quick. So it's all a receptacle load. There's not going to be any changes, but what you're going to see here within this is, so these load classifications, when you add them into your panel schedule, which we can, we'll just go and modify or look at how to change a panel schedule. So we'll go to our templates, manage templates. We'll go ahead and open up our branch panel template. Open. So we'll go ahead and open these, and then it should bring in the load classifications for it. So it should be correct. We'll go back here. We'll edit panel schedule, and then change template to our default. For some reason, it's not bringing it in. But in any case, typically that you'll have where all the load types or load classifications that you want to see will be listed here. So for any of that, and then it'll sum it here. So it's important to know what that is. And again, this is just a blank template. So some of the setup pieces haven't been completed for this. So you'll see that effectively you'll want to come in here and change it to whatever you want to see. Some you might want to see everything, every type that's in that panel. Some you might want to see only receptacles, motors, lights. So whatever it might be and what your typical use cases for what's on your panel schedules, you can load or put those different load classifications here. Other will just combine everything. But that's how you'll go in and edit your panel schedules, is through the Manage tab. And in another training, we'll spend more time on that. But you'll basically come up here to edit, go through, make sure that your load classifications are loaded in, and then you'll pick from these big lists what you want to see. So those are the major ones that I wanted to cover today. If you like the training, have any comments, questions, you can go ahead and drop them in the Q&A there at the bottom of your screen, and let me know what your thoughts are on any of the training. If there's something you want me to go back over, you can go ahead and drop those in now. All right, seems like we don't have a lot of questions, but so that's some basic Revit training. Some pieces maybe are a little more advanced. Big takeaways are make sure that you have your templates set up, all your settings, and thinking on the long game for Revit. So there's one last piece that I wanted to share with everybody, and that is, so we've gone through all these pieces with a few bonuses, but wanted to share with you that, so I've created a course really on Revit training. We've got 40+ lessons, some of what we just went over today, as well as other lessons, all about electrical design, use of Revit, thinking through everything that you want and need, and then as well as we'll include updates, new pieces that are in 2019, 2020, Revit, and I can share this link. So what we look at is, here's kind of everything that you need for Revit training, you know, basic copy monitors, setting and placing up sheets, room bounding, space tags, properties, templates, type versus instance properties, something that we went through today with more examples. The align tool, which is very useful in like putting in light fixtures to the grids and some other things, keynotes, how to do that effectively. All the things you can do with visibility graphics, text boxes, what those can really do, keynote guides, creating 3D views in Revit, fixture tags, light fixture schedules, panel schedules. I mean, there's 40 plus lessons in here that we'll go through. So if you want to join, I'll drop that in the chat if I can here. And oh, well, just email me. It's Dylan at Cowabunga Studios. So Dylan at cowabungastudios.com is my email, and I'll send you this course link. And if you sign up today, I'll spend an hour with you, really going through all of your schedule setups with you, what's working in Revit now, what's not, what you could use some help with, and spend basically just an hour consulting with you and helping you set up schedules. So that might mean we actually get through setting up a bunch of panel schedules, your templates, your details, all that good stuff. So I hope you join me in the course and learn more about Revit. So that's really all I had today. Again, if you have any questions, comments, feel free to drop them below. And here's the link for the course. Again, if you sign up today, give you free hour consulting on Revit and what you might need help with. So I'm Dylan, and thank you for joining the webinar today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you on another session.